And sorry, we have just started a recording. Again, thank you all for joining 17th final pricing options for equitable mobility task force meeting. So great to see you all one more time. We're super excited to be reaching this milestone with you all tonight. And you know, if we were in person, we would have some snacks to share. If we were in person, we would have had some snacks to share all along. But in lieu of that, we distributed over the last couple of days just little tiny treats for you all and some thank you cards. And so hopefully everyone got those. I know we left them on some porches and things like that. But hopefully you got those. If for some reason you didn't, let us know after the meeting. But you know, that was just a small token of our thanks for all the time that you've spent with us. So I hope you enjoyed them. And if anyone wants to eat your chocolates while you're here, we encourage that. As usual, we are going to start with a super brief Zoom orientation. And sorry, I have to adjust I was looking at all you have to move your faces. So I'm sure by now you have the guidelines here, but just a quick reminder: general guidelines for task force members. Please mute when you're not speaking. Please hold questions and comments for designated discussion times. Use the raise your hand function when you'd like to speak. Again, I think at this point it's found in both the participants and/or reactions tab. And for audience members, we ask that you mute yourself and turn your video off during public comment opportunities. And so, as I'm sure you all remember, last meeting, we opened the meeting with some comments from Commissioner Hardesty, who serves over the Portland Bureau of Transportation, and Commissioner Rubio sent in some comments, who serves over the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. And we have one more special guest for you tonight. BPS Director Andrea Durbin was not able to make it, but we have Director Chris Warner from the Portland Bureau of Transportation, and he's just going to give you all some really brief remarks. And again, thank you for your time over the last year and a half. So Chris, thank you for joining us, and take it away.
Well, thank you, Shoshana. Somebody must have stolen the package off my porch.
Sorry about that.
So no, it's fine. I'm not the one that deserves a package. I think all of you do for all the work that you've done. Good evening. It's so great to see everyone virtually. I remember I joined the first meeting of this task force back in January of 2020. I listened to a really lively discussion on where we wanted to go, and I was so impressed by the engagement. You know, this was kind of I don't know, a long shot, but it was really kind of a risk we took in terms of sending it out there to the universe and see who would want to participate in this, as Shoshana said, a 17 meeting marathon. But I've been hearing updates of your work, and I've been just so impressed with your thoughtfulness of your discussions and your deliberation. As you have discovered, pricing is a very complicated subject. We know we need additional solutions to help reduce our transportation climate impact, to create more equitable systems, and also to improve mobility. And we also know that doing that by asking people to pay more is always challenging. And that's why I really want to thank you for spending this year and a half thinking about this complicated subject, especially during this unprecedented time. I'm looking forward to seeing your final recommendations on what you'll be voting on tonight, and figuring out the next steps to moving them forward. Again, thank you very much for your time and dedication. We will be, once we do get these answers, we will be calling on you, because that'll take us to the next step of where we need to go with the work, which is actually implementing some of the strategies and some of the recommendations that you have. So I can't wait to hear your deliberations tonight and the work you're doing, and really looking forward to maybe seeing you all someday in person, and then continuing the work, because this is just the beginning. We have so much work to do in terms of creating a transportation system that reflects our values in terms of racial justice and carbon reduction. So this is one of the real pleasures I have, is in terms of really engaging the public and figuring out how we should go. So I'm just so pleased to be here. So I will turn off my mic and listen to you, and thanks again for all your work.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, and thank you, or Director Warner, sorry. Thank you for joining us. And we'll follow up with a package soon. All right, moving on.
Shoshana, just trouble tech things. Can you see the screen again? Is it back up at the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. And then we did have a few folks say they were having a bit of audio trouble. If you can let us know if you can hear Shoshana and I now, maybe with a thumbs up, that'd be great. We can try to be close to our speakers. Okay. We got to project, Shoshana, use our outside voices.
Okay, using my outside voice, and let us know if you're having more trouble. So just really quickly, it's a pretty simple agenda tonight. Starting as usual with welcome and housekeeping, agenda review, the meeting 16 summary, public comment, and some brief project updates. Then we're going to spend most of our time tonight voting on the final recommendations. And there's actually a series of votes that we'll take, so it will take a little bit. But that's the bulk of the meeting. And then just a little bit of time talking about what's next. As Chris said, this is really just the beginning. We'll be bringing your recommendations to council, and there will be continued opportunities and much more continued work. So we'll talk just a tiny bit about that. We're looking, we'll ask if you have final reflections, and then I don't want to say it, but we may get you out of here early, but we'll see how it goes. So we always appreciate all the discussion. So we'll see if we end up early or not. And that is the agenda. So moving on, we sent the meeting 16 summary out just earlier, and were there any edits to that summary? And, I don't think I see any hands. No. All right, moving along, we'll consider that final. And I also don't believe, double checking with my colleagues, but as of a little while ago, we hadn't received any written public comment. So is there anyone here who has verbal public comment for us tonight? If so, please raise your hand. I don't think we're seeing anything, right, folks?
I am not seeing any hands popping up. We can give it just a couple more seconds to make sure folks find that if they'd like to, but I don't believe we're seeing any.
Okay, moving along. All right, so project updates. So we have two just really brief project updates tonight. While this phase of our project is ending, there's all sorts of other work that we've talked about over the last year and a half. And one of the projects is the regional congestion pricing study that Metro did. We shared that information with you all, and it was helpful to your deliberations. That study, now I just see you, Emma. I don't know if...
Sorry, I stopped sharing my screen since we'll have another screen share in a second. I think if you put it on gallery view, and this actually goes for everyone, up in the top right, you can change from speaker view to gallery view, then you can see everyone.
Right,
sorry about that.
We don't usually have technical troubles. We save it all to the end. So the Metro Regional Congestion Pricing Study that you guys saw and talked about a little bit, that is going to JPACT, the Metro Council Regional Elected Table, where they talk about the Joint Policy Area Committee on Transportation, and it's the regional elected body that advises Metro on transportation plans and priorities. And so they will be discussing that regional congestion pricing study this Thursday morning, and I believe the plan is to vote to accept the study and recommended that sort of the findings be adopted and considered in future work in the regional transportation plan as they move forward with that work in 2023. So it's really just sort of accepting the findings of the study, but that will be happening this week. If anyone is interested, the Metro JPAC meetings are always open to the public at 7:30 a.m. on the third Thursday of the month. So I encourage you all to join. And if anyone needs that information and like 7:30 a.m. meetings, let us know. And then the last update, we have talked a few times about the work that ODOT is doing on tolling in the region. And, you all adopted the recommendations that we have shared with city leadership, and we will continue sharing with city leadership about sort of to help guide how the city is showing up in the tolling conversations. But we also want to make sure that you all as individuals are able to continue to hear what's going on and to stay engaged as you want to. And so we have Garrett Pryor from ODOT here for just a super short update about where they are and how you can stay engaged on your own. And so we will turn it over to Garrett. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. I'm Garrett Pryor from ODOT, he, him pronouns. I'm a former high school history teacher turned urban planner and just struck my 7th month here at ODOT. I'm joined here by our facilitator for our equity committee, Jessica Stanton. Jessica, do you want to introduce yourself while I bring up the PowerPoint to just walk through just a few slides?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here this evening. So impressed with all the work that you're doing. It's great to see all these wonderful faces. I'm Jessica Stanton, and I'm the EMAC facilitator. Been working with EMAC since about March of this year, and we've already done a lot of exciting things since then. Oh,
excellent. And yeah, Emma can help share us through, even perfect. So this first slide is to show you that we are people. It's not just ODOT, a big robot in the sky, which sometimes it can seem like that. So Jessica and I are new, and we're relatively new to the project, and really, I think, helping bring ODOT into new spaces. Next slide. So this is our Equity and Mobility Advisory Committee. Michael Espinosa, who's here, PBOT staff, is on it. We also have, I saw Oregon Walks is in the room. We have a representative from Oregon Walks on our committee as well. But it's 15 people from throughout the region. And what they're really working on are those icons you see at the top of the screen: transit, multimodal, options and access, low income and the impacts there, and the impacts to neighborhood health and safety if there is diversion created by pricing on the highways. And so we're thankful for the work that this committee has been doing and also searching into some of those same areas. I did want to highlight that this equity committee is new in its structure. It reports directly to the OTC, not to ODOT, and not through another kind of steering committee of regional elected officials. And so this is kind of a brand new structure for ODOT in that. We're here to support the work that comes out of there, similar to like Emma, Shoshana, and others here. We're not here to kind of guide or craft or like manage it, as you might see in some of the committees, in a more traditional structure. Next slide. Hi, Jessica, walk us through a little bit of what the committee's been doing.
Yeah, so as Garrett alluded, ODOT is really not driving this. The EMAC committee members are, and foundational to EMAC's work was to establish this equity framework. So this equity framework is how we're informing how we're doing the work. This framework is changing the way we would normally do the environmental review process. As well, this framework provides direction for ODOT to identify who, what, and where when using the term equity. So if you'd like to know more, we are compiling and applying this information in the document that you will see on the next screen. Next slide, please. So in May, EMAC continued this discussion about applying the equity framework and came up with a draft set of preferred options. So you'll see the gold sheet here on the screen, and that gold sheet is the EMAC options highlighted. You're not expected to read it. But a few highlights of what the options that EMAC have come up with are having a specific dollar amount or percentage set aside for transit and multimodal investments, exceptions for transit vehicles, and investments should follow the impact of the project and not an unrelated criteria. Next slide, please. So that's the tip of the iceberg, the flavor, if you will, of what the EMAC preferred options are, which will become EMAC's OTC policy and strategy recommendations. With all this said, very quickly, we are curious to hear your poem and EMAC thoughts. For example, how do you envision a future space for EMAC and poem members to meet and discuss your experiences? Would you like to highlight or spotlight poems recommendation at an EMAC meeting? Or provide opportunities for poem members to connect into the Oregon toll programs work. I'm certain if we have time to explore your thoughts right now, I'm going to kick it back over to Garrett for a closing thought. Garrett?
Yeah. And I think honestly in your agenda, maybe that we'll listen on this evening, because it sounds like you're going to talk about those next steps later. But those are just some of the original thoughts we had, and Michael's spoken about the letter from this committee earlier in the process. But the final thing is here, just thank you for letting us come and say hello. Lucinda is my boss. There's her information. You can get in contact with me. We'll connect you with Jessica as well. But just thanks for letting us take a few minutes, and congrats on all the work that you've been doing. It's great stuff.
Thank you so much, Garrett and Jessica. Great to have you with us tonight. I'm going to do the switcheroo of screens 1 second. But while I'm doing that and attempting to multitask, I thank you very much also for your willingness to kind of hold on discussion on those questions until later on, just so that we can, oh, am I sharing the wrong screen? I'm probably sharing the wrong screen. I know I've lost all of you. Shoshana, what are you seeing?
I just see I don't see a screen share right now.
Okay.
But while you're doing that, how did you just have a question or?
Yeah, I actually do. So what was the outcome of the legislation on the tolling policy? I wasn't tracking that really closely because I think one of the biggest concerns for us was, as a committee, that the tolling revenue was going to pay off the bonds first and foremost.
Well, I can share a little bit and then maybe I'll ask if, or maybe I should just turn it over to Garrett. I think there were, as far as the legislation, as far as we were tracking it, the language was amended so that the funding, the revenue could be used for a broader sort of subset of things, including a lot of the things that we've talked about in this committee. I think there are still definitely questions about sort of the bonding and how that revenue is going to be committed. So I don't know if Garrett or anyone from ODOT has more to add there.
No, and I'll just quickly say, I think you're right, Shoshana, how you set it up at the end. That's still a question to be determined. I think the legislation did get passed. It provided what would that path look like if money was bonded, but kind of how much is bonded, where does it go, is still to be determined. And what we've heard from our equity committee and what we want to do at ODOT is deliver, day one supports like you saw with those transit, multimodal, neighborhood health and safety and the other. So thank you.
Thanks for the question, Hal, and the answers, Shoshana and Garrett. The one other thing I was going to say is I do think that we should come back to some of those questions. We'll also send those out afterwards along with the contact information. But after we do our vote tonight, when we're talking a little bit about next steps, we're at a pivotal moment in our process where after tonight, the POEM task force no longer is a task force. And so we need to be thinking less about you showing up in a public official capacity as a body and more about your individual engagement as people who we know are deeply interested in this topic. And so I think that's another kind of ear to be listening with is how do you want to stay involved in both city conversations around this topic, but also in regional and state conversations as well. And because the toll program's time horizon is longer than our POEM task force, those opportunities are open to you as an individual Portland stakeholder. All right, I am going to move us into the very exciting business for the evening, which is our vote to adopt our final recommendations. So earlier today, we sent out a little bit of information about how the vote's going to run. I will recap that now. So we are going to be voting on the suite of recommendations that we sent out, the document. I'll provide the link as well for everyone to have that in the chat. Let me just do that right now before I get up too much of a head of steam. Moment. Here is the link to the final recommendations that we will vote on tonight. And I will now try to get back to my other screen. Gosh, we are having tech difficulties tonight. Okay, so we are going to be voting on the foundational statements and principles for pricing for equitable mobility as one vote to adopt that suite of recommendations. We will also vote on our complementary strategies section and the implementation next steps sections as complete sections, because those really hang together and those bullets really play off one another. And we feel like after the conversation today that we can be talking about those and voting on those as a block. With the nearer term and the longer term individual recommendations, our plan is to vote on those one by one, because we know that some of you may support some of those and not support others. And we want to be able to capture that nuance for the record and not put you in a position where you may have to vote up or vote down something when there may be specific actions that you agree with or don't agree with. So that is how we're going to be doing this tonight. And don't worry, I'll be your friendly cruise director through all of this so you don't get lost. So we are going to be using Zoom polls to register the votes this evening. We've done a lot of Zoom polling as we've gone. This isn't going to be the Survey Monkey thing. This will be a Zoom poll that opens right in your window. We will make sure everyone has a chance to cast their vote before we move on. Of course, the votes should be taken only by our 19 task force members, not by members of the audience here tonight. So thanks very much for not voting if you are not a member of the poem task force. For each vote, you will have a simple yes or no option. Yes, I support adopting this recommendation. No, I do not support adopting this recommendation. Following each of our votes, if a majority vote to adopt, as per our charter, that will mean that that recommendation is adopted formally as a recommendation from the poem task force. Our charter also says that we will record all minority or dissenting opinions. So those who voted no after each vote, I will ask, does anyone who voted no want to provide a verbal rationale? Very short, we're asking kind of 1 to 2 sentences to explain why you voted no, so we can capture that for the record. There's no pressure to do that. If you do not want to do that, that is fine. If you'd prefer to provide your rationale via writing, that is also appropriate. And if you vote no on something and your rationale will apply to future votes throughout the process, you can also say that as well. So really this is really about you having the opportunity to record your opinion if you vote no on something that is adopted as a successful recommendation. Any questions on this process? Anything that's unclear before we get into the meat of the matter? I'll pause for a second to just see if any hands come up. Not seeing any hands. Mariana, Michael, seeing any hands?
No hands.
Okay. Oh, I see a chat. Shawnee's going to log in with her phone. Okay, great. We'll make sure that before we move on to any from any vote that we have made sure everyone has had a chance to weigh in. Okay. So I already shared this link in the chat, so everyone should be able to see this. I highly recommend that you have this open on a screen to consult. As you know, some of our recommendations have a lot of sub-bullets kind of underneath them that is really important context and nuance for what we're voting on. So I want to make sure that you have a chance to reference that. I will also, as your cruise director, try to kind of call your attention to some of those key points, and then we'll have up on the slide sort of the top line of each recommendation that we're voting for. Okay, last call for any questions or concerns before we get into it.
Emma, did we say, just in case I missed it, which may be possible, but because we had such thorough discussion last time and have discussed many of these things, we're really just voting. We're not gonna, so if you don't agree with where it landed, voting no is absolutely great, but we're not gonna do another round of discussion this time. We're just gonna sort of move through the votes.
Thanks, Shoshana. Yeah, and that's just purely because we don't have time to kind of capture that, reflect it, and have everyone have the same amount of time to be thinking about it. So yes, this will be a vote on what you see in the final draft there. Sharifa, go for it. I see your hand up.
Yeah, I've opted to submit mine in writing. Is it possible? Should I just get like how I'm supposed to do that from you guys at the end of the meeting?
That would be great.
You want to tell us how you want us to do that?
That would be great. So for folks who want to provide their rationale for any no votes or any yes votes, but for any no votes in writing, please feel free just to email that to Shoshana and myself after the meeting. Sharifa, if you could still vote on the poll though, that would be great because we want to use that as the numeric record of up and down votes.
Also, can you explain a little bit how that, if we do submit it in writing, how is that going to be treated and how is that going to be submitted overall with the rest of the recommendation?
That's a great question. So sorry, didn't mean to talk over you there. So what we'll plan to do is we'll include that with the meeting summary for this meeting so that your rationale as written by you is incorporated in the record. If someone provides verbal rationale tonight, we will take that as notes, and it'll also be in the recording for the meeting and put that there. We will be producing a final report for the poem project, and that will have the adopted recommendations from the task force. It will also say in that for a recommendation to be adopted, it had to receive a majority vote. A record of all the votes and the rationale is provided on our website so that points to that record there. So that's how we'll be sharing that. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up, I don't believe. So without further ado, let's get into the votes. Okay, so our first vote this evening is going to be adopting our first two sections of the PDF of the final draft recommendations. The first of that is our 4 foundational statements. I won't read those aloud to you, but they are statements around that the system today is inequitable, contributes to the climate crisis, exacerbates poor health outcomes, costs our economy, and presents safety risks to users. The second bullet in the foundational statements is about the climate crisis that we're facing. The third is really about how past transportation decisions and historic disinvestment have disproportionately harmed BIPOC community members, individuals living on low income, and persons with disabilities. And the fourth bullet is about how the current system generally prioritizes drivers of private vehicles, but also acknowledging that many Portlanders are reliant on driving to meet their needs. The reason for these foundational statements is they really are foundational to how we have structured our conversation and the recommendations that follow. The principles for pricing for equitable mobility, there are several of them. The first one's really about pricing, is a statement that pricing does hold promise as a strategy to help move people and goods in a more efficient and climate friendly and equitable way, but only if it is designed to do so. There are statements about the urgency with which we need to move, statements about utilizing the equitable mobility framework for future pricing and other policy deliberations, and then several statements around how the city should design any future pricing strategy, guidelines for all the other recommendations to come. Again, I'm not going to read all of these to you, but just to call out a few, prioritizing the goal of demand management, recognizing that pricing is only effective if it reduces travel demand or raises revenue to fund effective demand management or multimodal improvements, providing exemptions for households living on low incomes, centering climate and equity outcomes throughout design, reinvesting revenue generated from pricing in strategies that further expand equitable mobility, and reducing the unequal burdens of technology and enforcement. Then we also have a statement about the complementary strategies referenced further on and community engagement. A lot in those principles section, but again, this was intended to be overarching statements that should apply to all of the recommendations that follow. So here we go, folks. I'm going to launch our very first poll. And the question is, do you support adopting the recommendations in the foundational statements and principles for pricing for equitable mobility? And we'll give you a few minutes to register your vote. Mariana, can you let me know the number of task force members we have in attendance tonight, just so I can keep an eye on the numbers?
3 as of the top of the meeting, there were 18.
18, okay. I have 15 votes registered, so I think we're waiting for 3 task force members to cast their vote. I'm still seeing it hang out on 15. So if there are any task force members that are struggling to cast their vote, can you come off mute and let us know? so we can help you troubleshoot. I have 16 now, so we're waiting for 2 task force members.
I guess we should also, we just have yes, no options. We could have people abstaining, which we don't really have a option for here, but.
Don't have an option
Right,
for
I guess we should
abstaining.
check
So,
if people are having technical problems.
so it looks like we're stuck on 16. Can anyone who hasn't cast their vote let us know of the 18 task force members? We're at 17 now. I think we're waiting for one more.
Well, I noticed a comment in the chat about Shani. She was here. She said she was switching to a call, and I know we have a number on now.
I saw Shani come back into the meeting, but then she may have left again. Oh, this, gotta love technology.
It looks like Shani, I don't see Shani anymore as a participant. So that might be the person that we're missing. Yeah.
Michael or Mariana, would you maybe be able to try to follow up with Shani via email or text, or I mean, we do have her phone number, to just kind of see if we can support getting her back into the meeting to cast her vote?
Yeah, I can get in touch with her.
Thank you, Michael. I will end this poll because we do have a clear majority adopting this recommendation. When Shani comes back in, we can definitely make sure she's got the chance to record her vote for the record. And if she wants to provide rationale, if she votes no, she is welcome to do so. But I will share the results of our first vote. We had 16 task force members present support adopting these recommendations, and 1 task force member saying they do not support adopting these recommendations. I think you can all see those. So we, per the charter and the bylaws, we will consider these 2 sections as adopted recommendations from the task force. I will now ask if the individual who voted no would like to provide any verbal rationale. Again, that is not required, just holding the space if someone would like to provide their comments.
I'm submitting it in writing, so I don't, everybody's already heard it 1,000 times. And just to be clear, I definitely am not denying everything on there. It's just some very specific things that trouble me, and I can't support the whole thing because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharifa, and thank you very much for sending us your rationale. We appreciate that. Okay, folks, we're going to move to our next one then. Michael and Mariana, just, get my attention if we can get Shani back in here, because I want to make sure we've got the opportunity to invite her to engage. Okay, are you all still able to see my screen? Shoshana, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay. So we are going to move into our nearer term recommendations. As a reminder, these are things to advance in the next 1 to 3 years per the document, and we will be voting on these one by one meaning the main bullet, the main recommendation. The first one we will vote on is to create a flexible commuter benefits program, requiring employers that provide free or subsidized parking to offer their employees that parking value in taxable cash income or alternative transportation benefits. If you're looking at the PDF, you'll see a little bit more detail in the sub-bullets about examples that exist of this type of policy in California and Washington, DC, as well as some statements about further policy work, engagement, and pilot projects that could help determine the most effective design and administration of a program like this. I will launch the poll to take a vote on this recommendation. So the poll is live. Do you support recommending the creation of a flexible commuter benefits program? I have 15 votes registered, so I believe we are waiting for 2 more until we get Shawnee back in the meeting. So now we're at 16. So I think we have 1 more outstanding from who voted last time. If you are not voting or having difficulty voting, please let us know so we know when to end the vote. Is that 17th person there by chance? I just really want to make sure that if anyone is having technical issues that they are speaking up so that we can support. But not seeing anyone come off mute or put things in the chat. I think we will once again then call this one complete because it is a majority once again. If you did miss this vote and you are a task force member and you're having trouble, please reach out to a staff member so we can support you. I'm going to end the polling for this one and share the results. So with 15 members voting to support and 1 member voting no, this is now an adopted recommendation from the task force. I will open the floor for the individual who voted no, if you would like to provide any rationale at this time.
Hi, you guys, it's Tammy. So,
Tammy.
hi, I voted no because I run this program for our employees through Providence. It's a really expensive program. So we provide free parking. We have 8 hospitals in Oregon, 1 that is affected by parking issues, the rest are not. And it's really hard to equally, right, have a program for our, what we call caregivers across Oregon, right? Or even that across our organization to call out 1 hospital. So saying Providence, Portland would be the only hospital that you would get a value, right, to that parking. And understanding we do provide transit passes. Out of 10,000 passes we purchased at a $2 million program, 900 used, right? So it's a really expensive program with not a high return. So that's why I vote no. I think there's other ways to do it. So.
Thank you, Tammy. Appreciate you sharing your rationale. All right, folks, I think we're going to move to the next vote. Okay. This one is the city should create new priced on-street parking permit and meter districts and reduce the time and complexity involved in approving new districts, allowing the city to respond more flexibly and responsively to neighborhood parking demand. The sub-bullets under this one talk a little bit about the current system being unnecessarily complex, requiring many layers of approval and a vote of 60% of residents to create a new district. And it also notes that the city should make final decisions as to management of the significant resource that is the public right-of-way. Just going to monitor the chat as well. I see Liz, who I think is probably Elizabeth Liedl Turnbull. Is that right?
Yeah, that's me. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm on my phone, so now it's showing up as a different name.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's a hot mess over here.
No, thank you. Thank you all for your patience. This is not the way we would ideally be running a process like this, but got to go out with a bang, right? So thank you so much. Okay, I am going to launch the polling. This is our 3rd vote on this recommendation around the creation of new parking districts. The poll is now live. Okay, I have 16 votes recorded. We'll do kind of a last call for any other members who have not been able to, and I have 17. I believe that is everyone we have. Michael, I saw a note to me privately about Shani's internet connection issues. If she can call in or even call one of us and be kind of following along, we are happy to register her votes. She is a part of this conversation, so we want to make sure she's got that opportunity. Okay, I'm going to end the polling for this one though. This one received 100% of those who voted. So the 17 members said they support adopting this recommendation. So this will be considered an adopted recommendation from the task force. Okay. We're moving along now. This next one is develop and implement a fee on privately owned off-street parking lots to further advance equitable mobility objectives. The sub-bullet in the actual recommendations themselves says, as with city-owned parking, using pricing to manage demand for privately provided parking can help improve efficiency and turnover while reducing climate and air quality impacts and make our roads safer. I will launch the poll for this vote now. Okay, we have the 17 members who are here have voted. I will end polling, share the results. We had 16 members in attendance vote yes, 1 voted no. So this is a majority of approval and we will consider it an adopted recommendation. I want to open space now for the individual who voted no, if they would like to share their comments.
Hi there, Tammy again. So again, I think, speaking from the work that I do, we just need to be able to have better options before so privately owned, Providence owns a lot of private off-street parking, right? And so in order for us to not utilize that, to really encourage our caregivers to use alternative transportation, we have to have a better variety of options for them. Transit doesn't always work, right? Biking and walking is becoming difficult even for people who live within 1 to 2 miles. So a lot of our paths are technically being closed, right? And so in order when I see this as a penalty to businesses that are still trying to do the right thing. It's just that we don't have the right options at this time. So that's why I voted no.
Thank you, Tammy. Again, appreciate you sharing your rationale. We'll record that for the record. All right, I'm going to move us to the next one. The next recommendation is to accelerate the implementation of the 2018 performance-based parking management policy to assess where public on-street parking pricing should be immediately adjusted and establish a structure for regular evaluation and adjustment to market rates more frequently than once a year. As on-street parking, and the sub-bullet that's not on the screen but is in the recommendations, is that as on-street parking demand in the central city rebounds to pre-pandemic levels, there was a unique opportunity and a critical need to apply best practices for on-street meter parking. Thank you, Michael, for noting that. So Shani votes yes on poll 4, which was our last vote. Is that correct? Thank you, Michael.
Yes, that's
Michael,
correct.
you are a hero. Thank you for yours and Shani's flexibility, making sure she can participate here. Okay, I'm launching the vote for this one on supporting accelerating the implementation of 2018's performance-based parking management policy. I have 17 votes in. I also believe Michael might be reading to Shani on the phone, so I'm just going to wait a little minute to see if he can register a vote. So I'm going to share the results because we have a majority voting yes. All 17 members who are present voted yes to adopt this one. And Michael might let us know via chat if what Shani's vote was as well, and if there's any comments she wants to provide if she voted no. And Michael's working double time, so I will give him some patience here. The chat, Shani votes yes on poll 5. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Shani. Great. Okay. We will move to the next one, folks. Thank you for your patience. I think we're making good progress. Okay, this one is to develop and implement a fee on urban delivery, including on-demand parcel and food delivery services to reduce rapidly growing vehicle miles traveled generated by these trips and negative mobility, climate, and safety impacts. We have several sub-bullets under this recommendation in the document. One that's about the importance of recognizing the ways delivery services help meet needs for people who have limited options. We also have language in there about the current working conditions experienced by many urban delivery workers are inadequate, and there is a need for stronger workforce protection, living wages, and access to essential benefits. Pricing policies related to these services should, to the extent possible, be designed to be supportive of the urban delivery workforce. Proposals should consider a differentiated fee structure to incentivize moving to zero emission vehicles, and proposals should integrate whenever possible with flexible curb management strategies. I didn't read every word. There's more detail in there if you want to look at that, but I will launch the poll for this recommendation. I think I'm waiting for 2 more responses, and I see Shani's in the chat, but 2 more folks that are here. Great, we've got all 17 from the group in the meeting. So we had 17 members, if you can include Shani's vote, supporting to adopt this recommendation. 1 individual did not support adopting this recommendation. I will open space for that individual if they would like to share their rationale now.
I'm submitted it in writing.
Thanks, Sharifa. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move to the next one. I wish I was savvy enough to also have the background music playing now. That might help make this feel a little more fun. I can't, so thank you for your patience. Our next one is to modify the existing fee structure on private for hire transportation to better manage VMT generated by these trips and reduce negative mobility, climate, and safety impacts. The sub-bullets under this are very similar to the last one, so I won't read them verbatim, but they're about recognizing the ways these services provide mobility options, statement around the working conditions experienced by private for hire drivers, and that these policies, to the extent possible, should be designed to be supportive of the workforce, and considering a differentiated fee structure to incentivize zero emission vehicles for these trips. All right, I will launch the poll for this recommendation. It is live. Okay, I have everyone's vote. So including Shani's vote from the chat, we have 17 voting to adopt this recommendation, 1 individual voting no. That is a majority, so this will be considered an adopted recommendation. And again, opening space if the individual who voted no would like to share any comments at this time.
Again, it'll be in writing. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharifa. Okay. Our next one is the city should advocate for amending the Oregon state constitutional restriction that limits use of funds generated through taxes on motor vehicles. The sub-bullet in the recommendations notes that while capital, pedestrian, and transit improvements are possible under the current restriction, it does not allow for investments in non-capital multimodal services like transit operations, which are critical to advancing equitable mobility. I will now launch the poll on this recommendation. Okay, I think we have everyone in the meeting, and it looks like Michael is actively talking to Shawnee, so we'll get that last vote in just a second. I'm going to share the results because this one we've got a clear majority as well, with at least 16 people voting to support this. We will find out Shawnee's vote and one member who is in attendance voting no on this recommendation. I will open space for the person who voted no if they would like to share any comments at this time. Noting that Shawnee also is a yes vote on this. And I'm not seeing any hands come up to provide comment, which is completely fine. So I'll kind of stall for one more second, and then I will move us on to the next vote. Okay. Oh, my screen just did a little dance, but I think I'm still here. Okay, so the next vote will be on this recommendation. Which is that regarding highway tolling, the city should advocate for the recommendations and outcomes outlined in the letter on tolling dated March 9th, 2021. The city should continue to actively engage and advocate for the values articulated in the letter through legislative and intra-agency staff coordination channels. We will launch a vote on this one now. I think I'm waiting for one more from the group. I see Shawnee's in the chat. There's one person in the meeting who has not voted. Okay. So with Shawnee's vote added to this, we have 17 members voting to adopt, which is a majority. So we'll consider this an adopted recommendation, and one individual voting no. I'll save some space right now if that person would like to make any comments. And if not, that's great. We can keep moving. Okay, folks, we are on the downward slope, I promise. We are moving into our longer term recommendations now. Let me get this all teed up. We're going to vote on these ones individually as well. Whoops, going too fast. Okay. So in this section, there's kind of a preamble at the top of these individual recommendations that says that the city should also continue considering pricing strategies that could have wider system benefits, but may take longer to develop and implement. The longer term strategies that show the most promise for advancing equitable mobility, if developed according to the previously mentioned principles and based on the information considered to date, include. And so we're going to vote on each of those kind of specific ideas one by one. The first of those is truly dynamic demand-based parking pricing designed to reduce VMT and advance climate and equity outcomes. The sub-bullet that's not on the screen but is in our document is that this could build on existing technologies, provide flexibility and responsiveness, and be implemented by the city of Portland. Just going to see the chat. Tammy, thank you very much. Sorry, we didn't quite get it done by 7, but we're close. Okay, I'm going to launch this poll. Okay, I have all the votes. So with the addition of Shawnee's vote in the yes column, I believe is what that said in the chat. Yep. We've got 17 voting yes and 1 person voting no. So this is an adopted recommendation. And I'll save some space if the individual who voted no wants to provide any comments at this time.
It'll be in writing. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharifa. Okay. Next, also in the longer term strategy column is a locally controlled road usage charge designed to advance mobility, climate, and equity outcomes. And there is a pretty important sub bullet on this one, so we wanted to include this as well, that the city should insist upon, advocate for, and mobilize support for the statewide RUC to be designed to advance climate equity and mobility outcomes while exploring a city or regional RUC that aligns with POEM principles and prioritizes transportation demand management. So kind of acknowledging that there are two levels really of the RUC conversation, the state one and the recommendation, the draft recommendation to consider a locally controlled RUC. So I will launch the vote on this. Okay. Believe we have everyone in the meeting. And it looks like we might have Shawnee back voting live, which is great. Let me know if that's true. I will share. Great. Michael says Shawnee is back. Yay. Okay. I think you're seeing the results. We had 16 members vote in support of this recommendation. That is a majority, so it will be considered an adopted recommendation. We had 2 individuals vote no on this one. I want to hold some space if either of those individuals or both would like to provide any comments at this time.
Mine will be in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Wait just a second to see if the other individual would like to say anything. Again, no pressure. We just want to create the space. You can also submit thoughts in writing. Okay, not seeing any hands come up. We'll continue. This next one, while not recommended as highly by the task force because initial modeling results showed it might not be as effective at improving equitable mobility, the city should also continue exploring how a central city cordon could help to advance mobility, climate, and equity goals. In the document, we had a few sub-bullets explaining that the central city is the area with the most plentiful multimodal alternatives. And pre-COVID, it was one of the most congested areas of the city. It is too early to know the longer-term implications of the pandemic on central city travel patterns and businesses, and more evaluation and monitoring is needed. There's also a bullet that talks about the initial modeling presented to the task force that showed that a cordon might lead to significant diversion, but that modeling did not look at whether different cordon designs or combinations of pricing tools could mitigate those impacts. And it acknowledges that further exploration of the potential benefits and drawbacks of a cordon is necessary. Okay, I will launch the poll for this recommendation. Okay, I believe we have everyone who's in the meeting right now has voted. Share the results. This one, a majority, 16 members who are present voted to adopt this. So that means it is a formally adopted recommendation. We had 1 individual present vote no. I would like to offer and I'm sorry, I am showing the results. Good, sorry, so many screens. I'd like to offer if the person who voted no would like to make any comments at this time, please feel free to do so.
That one was me. I just, the more I learned about cordon pricing versus RUC and some others, I just don't see it as viable for how Portland works. And, I'm sure we can study it and see more, but I just don't think that it's just going to be a feasible option for our city. So that's why I voted against it.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you sharing your rationale. All right, my friends, we have 2 votes left. We are almost there. We are going to vote on these last 2 again as a chunk. So we are going to be voting on the complementary strategies to advance alongside pricing section. Just so that I can quickly summarize what's in this section. It notes that the POEM task force recognizes the importance of all the following complementary strategies in creating a more equitable system. And there's a list there of things, including public transit infrastructure operations and service, bike and ped infrastructure and programs, affordable housing, infrastructure and programs that enhance safety, incentives and financial support for travel options, strategies to incentivize EVs and fuel shifting, and land use policy that leads to more connected, complete, and inclusive neighborhoods. There's a statement about revenue generated from potential future pricing may not allow investments in all of those areas. So it also acknowledges that transportation revenues are declining and maintenance needs are growing, and restrictions limit some reinvestment opportunities. But given all that context, the city should prioritize reinvestment to the extent possible in critical strategies that most help enable connected, inclusive, and complete neighborhoods, and improve equitable access to non-driving options. And then several examples there. Lots of important things in there, but I'm trying to kind of go a little efficiently. So please read on your own. And then we have a statement about displacement and unequal access to multimodal options in parts of the city, acknowledging that then many Portlanders must drive to meet their needs and that car access is also inequitable. So while expanding non-driving options should be the priority, the city should also invest in strategies that improve equitable access to shared and electric automobile travel for those who need it. And finally, there's a statement at the end of this section about the importance of the city exploring opportunities to provide direct financial support to Portlanders living on low incomes to improve equitable mobility outcomes, enabling community members to make the best decisions for their specific needs. So a lot in this section. We're going to be voting on it as a block, and we'll launch the poll now. Okay, I have all the votes. We had 16 members vote yes to adopt the complementary strategies to advance alongside pricing section, so that will be considered part of the formal recommendation. We had one task force member vote no. I will give space for that, task force member if they would like to share any comments at this time.
Yeah, and I'm not mean and evil. There was really just one thing in there that I just couldn't abide by, and it'll be submitted in writing.
Thank you, Sharifa. Okay, it's so amazing that we've reached this point. We have one vote left. It is on our final section of recommendations, which is around implementation next steps. So lots of kind of process moves for the city to take. The first is really about the city being prepared to make bold decisions to advance climate equity and mobility goals and really taking on a leadership role. That might include piloting strategies where the city has implementation authority. There's a recommendation around regular data collection and or surveying, a recommendation around studying the near and longer term mobility impacts of COVID-19 to inform future policy development, a recommendation around conducting wider community engagement, one about partnering with community members, businesses, and organizations to advance the conversation and help build a coalition to champion the most transformative options. And finally, the city should explore models for a unified financial assistance system for households living on low incomes that could be applied across pricing programs and transportation services to reduce burdens on these households and administrative complexity. I am going to launch the very last poll. Who is excited? You probably are all excited to hear me stop talking. Michael, I'm acknowledging your comment via Teams, and I will do that right after this. Okay, we are done. This one was a unanimous vote. The 18 members present voted yes to support adopting these recommendations, so they will be a part of the record. I want to just quickly go back. I'm so grateful for Shani for persevering and rejoining the meeting, and thank you, Michael, so much for facilitating this. I just wanted to note that Shani voted yes on adopting the foundational statements and principles, yes on the flexible commuter benefits program, and a no on the new parking districts poll, our third vote. And Shani, I just wanted to, no pressure at all, but I wanted to give you an opportunity if you wanted to provide any rationale for your vote, your no vote on the parking districts at this time. Again, only if you would like to.
It's really just the part on reducing the time and complexity involved in approving new districts. I think that that should take time and it should be complex.
Thank you very much. Okay. Team, congratulations. You have officially adopted your recommendations out of this process. And it's wow, it's a really exciting moment, as the confetti on the screen, I hope, conveys. We could not be more grateful and appreciative of you sticking through that, like 50 minutes of kind of painful voting, but really the last 18 months of thoughtful, intense deliberation and dialogue, and just profound thanks and congratulations. Your work is right on display. So thank you. I think I'm going to drink a little bit of water and hand it over to Shoshana.
All right, adding my thank you and congratulations as well. And thank you to Emma, our facilitator extraordinaire, who has helped throughout this process and bring us through complex conversations and votes like that. So thank you so much. So as we started, we'll try to actually get you out a little bit early, but as we started with tonight, this is the end of this process. It's not the end of this project. So just really quickly, oh, we're all hoping for wine. Again, if we were in person, we might have been able to do more. Sorry, we're doing our best with the chocolate. So just a little bit about what's next. I think the next slide. This is next. So sharing those recommendations. This week, we will get them up on the POEM website, post them officially so that everyone can see them. You can share them with your friends. You can talk about them. And then, as Emma mentioned already earlier in the meeting, we are working on a final report to capture this whole process and to capture the recommendations. It will include, sort of starting from the beginning, it'll include some information about the process, about how you all participated over this time. It will include information about the equitable mobility framework that we created together in the first sort of half of the process. It will include some information about each of the pricing strategies that we've talked about together, and then it will include these recommendations, so that we're still sort of working on packaging and finalizing that. And of course, the information that we just got will have to go in. So we think that should be done hopefully early fall. We plan to publish that, and it will be, again, we'll post it, we'll put it on our website, we'll send the information out to you all when that is done. And then shortly after that, we are planning to go to council. Again, given summer and council schedules and everything, it's looking like late September, possibly even early October. But we will go to council. We will present those recommendations as, sort of exactly as you all presented them, so that we can share them, like the charter says, with city leadership, sort of from you all. In addition, I think we talked about this a little bit last time. In addition, we're going to be doing some more work sort of between now and then to think about, okay, this is what you all said. How can we start to move some things forward? So we hope to bring those recommendations, as well as a little bit more about some concrete next steps. So that's what you can expect in fall when we go to council. And I think next, so to keep you a little bit informed as we go through these next steps, unless you ask us not to, we plan to keep you informed through our current POEM listserv, the way we've been sending emails out. We promise we won't send a lot of emails out, but just again, when the report is finished, when we have a council date, things like that, we'll keep providing you some updates. So again, if you've sort of had enough, if you've made it this far and you're like, I'll just watch from now on, let us know and we can take you off that list. But otherwise, we'll use it sparingly, but send you some ongoing updates. And we've also heard from a couple of folks who are interested in staying in touch with each other. So you will no longer be official task force members. And if you just want to sort of offline and non-officially exchange information, that's fine. So I think we will follow up with an email to ask who would like to have their information shared. And again, that sort of becomes just a private communication at that point, but we'll ask your permission before sending anything And then we had a survey that we sent out last week, and many of you got back to us already, expressing your interest in helping to testify when we go to City Council with this. But if you haven't had a chance to fill that out, or if you're still thinking about it, definitely let us know. And again, we'll follow up as we get closer, but we would love to have many of you show up with us at council and talk about this process and help share your perspective on the recommendations that are going forward. So those are the most immediate next steps that we wanted to share. And then we want to take just a few minutes right now and sort of ask one more time a little bit about your perspective. You know, this is a huge milestone and we're really excited. Again, we could also think about this as just the beginning of another round of processes. And, you know, as is in the recommendation someplace, and as we've heard from many of you, we know that there is some urgency to move forward and get some of these things done, and to build on the momentum from your thoughtful conversations and recommendations. We also know we need to continue doing more outreach and engagement and make sure we have additional perspectives. And so we're going to try to sort of hit that balance of both moving forward and bringing more folks into this conversation. And we just wanted to really take a minute and pause right now. We've had some other conversations about next steps. It's just more at this moment, at our last meeting, do you all have any sort of last thoughts for us about how do we engage more people, how do we engage more organizations, and really help build the momentum? I think even Commissioner Hardesty, when she was here last time, sort of talked about needing, you know, this is going to be an ongoing process, and City Council will need to keep hearing from folks. And so just again, really want to pause and take a minute and see if you all have any other thoughts about people, organizations, or even additional roles you're interested in. So I'll pause there, and I see we have a couple of hands. I only have one screen, so I have to.
I think we've got Stephanie and then Shani.
So one way that we could engage more people is to reach out through the, whatever is 95 or 96 neighborhood associations. That's a structure that's in place. And almost all of them have land use committees that have meetings and send out information and newsletters. So that's a structure that's ready to go.
Great, thank you for the idea.
Shani and then Sharifa.
I would reach out to C3s run by people of color.
Great,
and other C3s with strong organizational basis.
Thank you. Sharifa and then Bao.
I think I would reach out to more individuals. One thought is focus groups. I know that I've been a part of at least one conducted by the city, and was actually a big part of my sort of, I kept those people in mind when I was a part of this task force and the things that they had said and their perspectives. I don't know how that looks for you guys. I mean, there's professors at PSU that are pretty good at that kind of stuff, but that's my thought.
Thank you. I stopped sharing my screen so we could see faces. Hope that's okay. Bao and then Andy.
Thank you, Emma. Could you hear me?
Yes, you can hear great.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I think speaking individually, not as employee of TriMet, I'm sure you guys have planned to talk to the public transit provider here, because when I hear a lot of transit, I feel so encouraged. This group of people think transit should play a very fundamental, important role to argument the work we're doing. Some other organization, I think most of us probably know is maybe a panel or ERCO, those organizations, or even farmers markets. You can have a booth at, if possible, at downtown market or different farmers markets around the city, the burbs. I'll stop here. There's a lot of good ideas.
This is great, and I should say, please don't stop here. We don't want to keep you for the rest of the evening, but please do keep sharing these ideas. This does not have to be a conversation that ends tonight. We see you as ambassadors for this process, this conversation, this ongoing dialogue. So I really encourage you to stay in touch and keep the great ideas flowing. Andy and then Aaron.
Yeah, I would reach out to the Portland area legislators. They've been pretty active on transportation related issues. And I would meet with them as a group because of the group dynamic you get of them interacting with each other. But I think the fact that we have a very comprehensive recommendation, it'd be illuminating for them to see the whole thing.
Thanks, Andy. Really helpful. Aaron, go for it.
Yeah, I'm on a Oregon Business Forum board, and we are always actively looking for monthly speakers, having someone actually that can sit down and go a little bit deeper than just the talking points. I think like before I got involved in this committee, a lot of these things seemed like my opinion changed the more information I got and the more I understood kind of the dynamics from it. And I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat. And there are a lot of business oriented or focused committees that hold a lot of sway and influence that we could, that are always seeking speakers, which would be great.
Thanks, Aaron. That's a great point. One thing we've been talking about we've had 18 months with you guys to dive into this, and it's, how do we distill that into 18 minutes or maybe 18 seconds? So great suggestion. And thank you very much for offering that. Violetta.
I agree with the comments that have been made about culturally specific organizations and also trying to reach other demographics that we might have missed in this group, such as like youth, monolingual speakers of non-English speakers, and others that might have been absent from the group.
Thank you very much. Excellent point. Okay, I don't see more hands, and we're at the time that I set for us to move to the next thing so that we don't keep you here super late. I just want to raise up Bao's suggestion in the chat too about a short 1-minute promo or summary video with testimonies and key points. Video as a medium for communication is definitely intriguing. So I think that's a great suggestion, and then we can follow up on. Please keep the ideas coming in the chat, but I will move us on to, oh my gosh, if I can figure out how to share my screen. There we go. To our last section, our last few PowerPoint slides ever in the poem process. So I want to take you back a year and a half ago, January, a lot cooler than it is right now. We were all bundled together in now it feels like very cramped conference room in City Hall, sitting around a table. And we were all just like so excited because we'd had this recruitment for this task force and had over 130 people submit an application to participate. And we selected you all to come join us, and you graciously volunteered your time to spend a year and a half with us diving deep on this topic. And we did a round table at that time, and we asked you a variety of questions, but one of them was, what motivated you to sign up for this? Why were you excited to take part? And the comments, I remember reading back through the summary after that, were just so insightful. They were so diverse. Everyone kind of came from a different perspective and was motivated to be there for a different reason, but you all shared a real passion for, diving into this question about equity and mobility. And so we wanted to close our process together with a bit of that again, with a chance to kind of do a round table of reflections. And now, you can both use this as a chance to do a little looking back, but also to look forward about what are you most proud of or excited about as we reach the end of this process. I don't want to make you, really truncate your responses, but I ask you keep it, as a little bit brief so we can get through everyone. But we are really just so excited to listen and let you have the floor for the end of our process. So I have a list here of names. I don't know what order this is in. Doesn't really look alphabetical or anything, but I'll just call on names if that works, so that we don't have to do the awkward Zoom who thing. So Esme, if you wouldn't mind going first, you're first on my list. And Esme, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. I'm going to try to find you in my grid. Esme may have had to drop off too. Oh no, I see.
No,
you.
I'm here. Sorry, my unmute button got buried underneath a bunch of other windows.
You're fine.
And now I'm forgetting the question after all that. It's what we're most proud of, correct?
What you're most proud of or excited about as we reach the end of this process.
Yes. I'm most proud of the possibility to get policy through council. And I think both our climate crises and the injustice of the city demand it. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Esme. Monique, you're next on my list. I will start giving people a heads up so you can be thinking, but Monique, if you are ready to jump in, go for it.
Yes, I am most excited about seeing such a group with diverse ideas and diverse backgrounds come together, and I was really impressed on how much agreement there was on our votes. So that I think is really interesting and inspiring.
Emma, you're on mute now.
I know. It moved around on me. Okay, next up is, thank you very much, Monique. Next up is Andy, then Sarah, then Bao.
Yeah, reflecting back to that first meeting, I think we came up with a more complete product than I expected. What I said earlier about it being comprehensive. And I think we reached a higher level of consensus than I expected.
Thanks, Andy. Sarah, you're up next.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited. I'm cautiously excited about the potential that this could be a plan or a recommendation policy that would actually be applied, and that the city of Portland could take a real leadership position in the country in terms of addressing pricing for equitable outcomes. And I would be really proud should that come to pass. We're not there yet. So I hope to be very proud, I guess. It's my final take on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. Bao, you're next. And then it's going to be Stephanie, Hao, and Ashton.
Yeah, thank you just so much. I'll pick a couple of things. I'll just first anchor the points have you already spoken. Really impressed with the collaborative process, this diverse views. I learned so much from each of you. And then, just reading the learning from the presentation. I'm really excited about the next step, the city council vote in September. So we can make the baby step toward really addressing the transportation injustice and our climate crisis. So back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bao. Okay, Stephanie, you're up next.
Okay, thank you, Emma. I am proud that we have such a worthy product to present to City Council. I feel that pricing recommendations are based on strong arguments. They target the real culprits, but protect exploited populations. The recommendations are laid out as a process that is easy to comprehend and follow. I love that we have included so much parallel supportive policymaking. So we have put our recommendations into a strong policy context. And we call for ongoing data collection and consultation with Portland's residents. So I feel that we're submitting a thoughtful, complete package. I'm really proud of it. It's been so much fun working with everyone. I have learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Hao, you're up next. Hao, then Ashton.
Thanks. Wow, I agree with a lot of what has been spoken already. But I just wanted to thank the City of Portland and Bureau of Planning and Sustainability for developing a process where I feel like the committee members have been heard and that the recommendations is a true reflection of the group. And it wasn't something that came to us sort of premeditated for us to sign off on, but it was a really collaborative process that brought us to a very comprehensive, multi-pronged recommendation, which if a fraction of what gets implemented, I feel like is going to be a huge step in the right direction to addressing climate change and equitable mobility. Thanks again for inviting me to be a part of this process. I've just met so many wonderful people through this work as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Hal. Ashton, you're up next. Then I've got Jonathan, Tony, and Shani on tap.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you to all the task force members. It was wonderful working with you all. This is my first task force, so thank y'all for breaking me in. I want to thank the city staff. The proudest moment I really have, and it really takes us back to last year, was the portion of the year when we really hit that part around Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and staff really adjusted and was flexible with all of us as we were going through that trying time. I know at that point I had a lot of personal loss due to COVID, so I really appreciated the staff for that. And I think that shift really shifted us into a different mind space in terms of approaching this work. And I'm really, really proud of the product that we did produce tonight and vote on. But I'm just so happy and proud of the professionalism and staff at PBOT. And I look forward to continuing working with you all. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ashton. Jonathan, you're up next.
All righty. Well, thank you. And thank you for all of your work and all of your colleagues at PBOT. I guess the reflection I'd like to share is I'm really pleased we brought in the gentleman from overseas, the consultant, because I think, often transportation in this country, in this city, the discussions are limited to what people experience locally or regionally, depending upon your lens, which in no way is a world-class implementation of whatever it is you're talking about. So I think it's really important to recognize there are realities that are far more comprehensive, far more, have much greater efficacy, et cetera, in other parts of the world. And so to have those facts as part of this process, I think is really useful, because it means that there is a greater likelihood anyway of the aspirations actually being world-class. Even if we can't implement them, at least we are aware of what world-class could look like. So thank you.
Love that. You guys are all so eloquent. Thank you. Thank you. Tony and then Shani.
Well, I want to echo all the nice things everyone has said about the committee. I agree with all of that, and thanking the staff and everyone else here, having such a really I think that the diversity and the size of this committee and the fact that we made it through this last year is pretty amazing. I've been on other committees where people drop off and never come back, and that this stuck together and did this, I think, is really powerful. I'm very excited. I think that this is probably the most comprehensive set of like advanced parking reforms I've seen anywhere. Really world class if it happens. And I also think I'm very excited about the recommendations we have about how to mitigate impacts on low income households. And so I think that this will really, I'm curious to see, Portland has been kind of inspiring action on housing and other things around the country. And I'm hoping that maybe this also is a inspirational report that spurs other cities to try out similar policies.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Shani, you're up next.
I think what I'm most proud of is that we reached consensus. Like, I don't know if everyone knows like what a big deal that is, but that's a really, really big deal. Especially given how diverse we are in our opinions and in our backgrounds. And I think achieving that means that we've got something good here, y'all. And I also appreciate really getting to meet and getting to talk with quite a few of you. So this has been a lovely experience, and not to knock any other PBOT committees that I may or may not have been on, but I do not feel like this was a waste of my time.
Thank you, Shani, and thank you so much for your perseverance tonight. Again, you rock, and I'm so glad we got you in. Okay, and my next three are Elizabeth, Justin, and Sharifa. So Elizabeth, go for it.
Yeah, I just really appreciate the incredible diversity of this committee. I mean, I remember sort of receiving the list of our bios and then going to that first meeting and coming home and just saying, wow, this is an incredible group of people with a lot of different perspectives that are very interesting and very pertinent to this topic. And I just have appreciated that throughout and have appreciated all of your comments. I think looking at all your faces, there's probably a single comment that each of you made that sticks in my brain. Sarah, I use yours a lot in my day-to-day work. So just really appreciate everybody who's been here and how much I've learned from everybody. And I regret that we didn't get the chance to do this in person because I think that would have been elevated even more if we had. I think what I'm most proud of is that it feels like we have taken some steps towards something big here. We're certainly not there yet. There's a lot of work left to do, but looking at these recommendations, if we got even a quarter of it done, that would be really, really big. And if we got anything close to all of it done, it would be enormous. So thank you all, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Justin, you're up next.
Thanks, everybody, and really happy working with you. Great job, Emma, Michael, Shoshana, Mariana. This was really well facilitated and very structured, and you've all been very thoughtful in pulling this together. And I think you should be proud of that. And this group, myself, I feel we should be proud that we're given a very clear brief, a very clear problem statement by the facilitating team, and through collaboration and thoughtful deliberation, we've come to a product that meets that brief and that our community can take forward and go do some good with. So that's something to be proud of. So thank you all.
Thank you, Justin. Sharifa, and then I'm going to get my last three on deck. It's Erin, Violetta, and Adi.
I think what I'm most proud of is being on this task force in the first place, and being among people, a group of professionals that I otherwise normally wouldn't interact with, and also, though I didn't support a handful of these recommendations, I do feel like I was heard, and I thank you all for that, and I appreciate that, and I'm proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharifa. Erin, you can start our last three, our home stretch.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to repeat echo everything that everyone has said. I told, when I told my wife, I'm going to be on this committee, and she's like, great, how many people? I said, oh, like 25. She's like, you can't get 25 people to decide on the same dinner or any, like, there's no way. I love how it said, like, diverse backgrounds and how we came to consensus. Like, it wasn't like we all started there. There was a lot of different perspectives, disagreement, but throughout it, I just loved learning from those perspectives from each of you. I feel like I learned a ton, and I feel better equipped when I talk to other people about, like, the different challenges facing our city and real viable solutions that we could do. I just feel like I wear that with pride as almost an ambassador of this committee, that we can go about and be part of something really great. And I think that's awesome. COVID's been crazy. I own a couple of restaurants and a bar, and my world went upside down. And yet every month I looked so forward to seeing all of you, even virtually. Just it felt like that this was kind of like a something that kind of kept my world aright a little bit on a personal basis. That felt like we were still moving forward with doing something good despite all of everything else. And I just I want to thank you all for that. I think the friendships that have been made outside of this whole thing. I've made connections with some of you, and hopefully more of you as we go forward. It's been really, really great. So from a personal and professional, I just really want to thank you for this committee. It's been a highlight, and I'm going to miss it, honestly. So thank you for that.
Wow, that really means a lot, Aaron. Thank you. Violetta, you're next.
Hello, I'm really proud of all the collective learning and thoughtful conversations with folks that are very passionate about this work and just passionate about creating a more just city. So really appreciative of the facilitation of this process and also making sure the folks were heard, and also just the constant check-ins, the speakers that we had that brought really awesome information. Also all the articles that were sent that also provided information about questions that folks had. Just really appreciative that you were able to take in all the feedback that we would give, and just make sure that we really felt that we're heard. So yeah, I'm also excited for, as folks were mentioning, the next steps and to see the possibilities.
Thank you so much, Violetta. Adi, you get the last word, my friend.
I don't know what I did to get this, but I agree with everything that everyone said, and I am now also so proud that we could have a wrap up like this, that everybody, it was such a important experience for everyone. I think it really shows what an incredible resource we have in the city of people who are really knowledgeable and committed and passionate and willing to listen and willing to learn and eager for those things, and to have agency staff that are able to facilitate such an amazing process that helps us articulate policy that originates in shared values and a framework for the outcomes that we want, instead of the kind of backwards way that it sometimes happens. And then hopefully our elected leadership will then be able to use that to really make an impact on these really important issues. And just the fact that it happened during such an incredibly difficult year, I think it makes the accomplishment even more impressive, but I think it also pushed us, as Ashton said, to act with more intention and more urgency, and to really kind of strip away what we used to think was possible and really move forward with what the vision that we want to work toward. So I'm really proud that we all came together for that. And for those of you that I used to know, that I knew before, I'm so happy to spend more time with you. And for those of you that I just met, I'm so honored to have met you and to have worked with you, and look forward to someday when we can see each other in person.
Excellent last words, Adi. Thank you all so much. Wow, I got a little emotional there. That was lovely. And since it's our last meeting, it's also the time for admitting embarrassing mistakes, including that at our last meeting when we took the group picture, I didn't quite hit save. And so I lost our beautiful group picture, and I had to then confess that to my team and do a big mea culpa. But so I said we would take one last group picture, and this time I'm going to hit save. I'm going to even have Michael do a backup, so that Shani, I saved one of them. So I'll see if we've got you in there, and we can do some Photoshops. We can work magic, but we're going to try one last group picture. So if you can try to find your camera, if you can't, that's okay. Again, we'll Photoshop you in, but I'll see if we can turn on some pictures. And Shani, even if you can't get your camera on, we've got your awesome consulting logo. So that's super cool too. Okay. I see beautiful faces. I'm going to take 2 pictures because we are on 2 screens. So 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, hitting save. You're all watching me hit save. Saved. Okay, now we're doing number 2. Michael's taking my backups.
And Mel with her shirt. That's awesome.
Mel with her shirt. Elizabeth, no one can tell. Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you all.
Okay, hitting save, hitting save. You're watching me hit save. It's all happening. Okay. Whew. Dodge that bullet. All right. We are almost done, my friends. We've got 2 slides to go. I think you can see this. Shoshana, I think this is on. This is you.
All right, I don't see the slide yet, but I think what we were going to say is, and just, thank you. What Emma said, that was, I'm honored. We are all honored, I think, as staff to have worked with all of you, and just, again, appreciate everything that you've done and the thoughtfulness of this process. And, just, we can't say thanks enough. And I did, I'm not seeing the last slide. Oh, there it is. Okay. We did, you all have seen a fair amount of Emma and I, but we also wanted to take a minute and acknowledge that there's actually a lot of staff who have been involved in this. There's actually more than is on the screen, but we want to give a quick shout out, especially to these folks who have really also been instrumental. Michael Espinoza, Eric Hessa, Mel Kernayich, I am so sorry, Mel, I always have trouble. Kernayich, Ingrid Fish, Mariana Lomanto, Vivian Satterfield, Marty Stockton, and Bob Kellett, just all, again, to do all of this work and to sort of bring all the speakers and discuss all these policies. It's taken a huge team, again, including some other folks, and just want to give all of them a shout out, in addition, again, to the just continued shout outs to all of you, and thank you. And for the final thing, this, as you all know, this is called the Pricing Options for Equitable Mobility Task Force, otherwise known as POEM. In your gifts that we left, you will notice that there was a little poem, and we also just couldn't quite resist finishing the whole meeting without reciting a very, very, very small, juicy poem. So thank you in advance. But the task force has wrapped.
The votes are officially done.
Thank you so much once again.
We hope you've had fun. Shoshana and I will work on our Shakespearean theater stuff for the next task force. But okay. Thank you so much again. I wish, it feels anticlimactic. I'll try to put on the tunes again so we can have a little dance party. But and Shoshana and I take a bet every meeting if we're going to get done early or late. And I said we're going to finish early. Shoshana, you're buying me the drink. It is 7:46.
We said early because it was less than 15 minutes. I'm at ready at 7:45. I don't know. It's early-ish.
It's early. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Goodbye, everybody.